I'm Dr. Swarnareka Bhatt, and I'll be talking on why infection control, and this is the first session of the course that you're all going to be attending. Before I start off saying why infection control, let us see what we mean by hospital infection prevention and control. The patient can get infection from other patients, from healthcare personnel, from environment, from equipment, from procedures that are done for them, and by food and water contamination. The goal of hospital infection prevention and control is to ensure that the patient does not get infection from these sources. So basically, it is a set of evidence-based guidelines to prevent occurrence and spread of infections among patients and healthcare personnel. What are the components of infection prevention control? We have standard precautions, transmission-based precautions, environment cleaning, disinfection, sterilization, biomedical waste management, protection of healthcare personnel, and also, which is often not discussed, auditing and surveillance of HAIs and training of healthcare personnel. And the last one is what we are doing right now. So having said what is infection prevention and control, let us see what we mean by healthcare associated infections. Healthcare associated infections were also known as hospital acquired infections or nosocomial infections, but the current accepted terminology is healthcare associated infections. These are infections that occur while receiving healthcare in a healthcare facility that first appears 48 hours or more after hospital admission and can occur within 30 days of having received healthcare. There are many ways to classify HAIs, but what is often used is based on the source of infection. So we have the CLABC, the central line associated bloodstream infection. We have the CRIB-C, which is the catheter related bloodstream infection. We have VAP, which is ventilator associated pneumonia, COTI, catheter associated urinary tract infection, and SSI, that is surgical site infection. These are some facts about healthcare associated infections. The incidence of HIs is 7% in high income countries, whereas it is double, that is 15% of admissions in low middle income countries. The case fatality rate is high, and good infection control and prevention practices will reduce HAI by 70%, but unfortunately only 15% of hospitals fulfill all aspects of the infection prevention control program. So let's look at why is it necessary to implement strict infection control measures in our ICUs. Though I am referring a lot to intensive care units, the same principles apply wherever a patient is in the hospital. So the first question is healthcare associated infection a problem in our ICUs? Do we have multi-drug resistant organisms? And do interventions to improve infection control help in reducing HAI? At this time, I would also like to take this opportunity to say that though every patient is susceptible to infections in the hospital, preterm very low birth weight neonates, sick infants and children are more susceptible because of an immunocompromised system. Let's look at this case scenario. This was a 30-week, 1,000-gram neonate with no risk factors for early onset neonatal sepsis. Other than prematurity, this baby was admitted in a level 3 NICU. The baby developed respiratory distress syndrome, required CPAP, that is non-invasive ventilation, was on intravenous fluids and parenteral nutrition. The baby was started on enteral feeds within 24 hours. The baby deteriorated at 96 hours and it required invasive ventilation. A sepsis screen was sent which was positive and the blood culture grew multi-drug resistant Klebsiella. Unfortunately, this is a familiar scenario, but why? Obviously, because of poor infection control practices. The source here might have been the intravenous fluids or the ventilation. But let's look further at this case scenario. In the same unit, there was a baby who was admitted with culture positive MDR Klebsiella. This was a 10-bedded NICU. In the night, there were 2 nurses. And in the night, there was only one doctor who would take care of the NICU babies and the delivery calls. Hand hygiene compliance was 72%. So there's plenty of reasons why infection has spread from this outborn late preterm to the inborn baby whom we talked about earlier. It could be because this baby has not been isolated, understaffing, 1:5 ratio is not acceptable, poor hand hygiene compliance, and one doctor who takes care of everything. So to prevent these kind of things from happening, we need to strictly adhere to infection control practices. Let's look at an adult scenario. This is a 60-year-old male with history of diabetes and hypertension, brought to the emergency with respiratory distress and altered sensorium. Admitting diagnosis was diabetic ketoacidosis. Shifted to ICU, started on IV fluids, was started on invasive ventilation and was catheterized to monitor urine output. By day 3, he improved, blood sugars were under control, sensorium was normal, but by day 5 of admission, the patient developed fever, blood counts were elevated, CRP was elevated, and infection was suspected. Antibiotics were started after sending blood culture and urine culture. Though blood culture was negative, urine culture came positive for Klebsiella, sensitive only to meropenem. The reason for this catheter-associated urinary tract infection most probably would have been that standard precautions were not followed during catheterization. So coming back to the NICUs, this is data from Indian NICUs where the incidence of HAI among admitted patients has been as high as 35% and in some units as low as 99%. The reason for this could be the different kind of infection control practices, the different kind of staffing ratio, etc. But what I need to inform from this is that it is possible to have low HAIs even in our NICUs. This is data about device-associated HAIs in Indian ICUs. This includes 16 MICUs, 9 PICUs, and 5 NICUs across the country. And if you look at it, the CLABSI rate is pretty high in the NICUs, and the VAP rates are high both in the MICU and in the NICU. So far we have talked about that yes, HAIs are a problem in our ICUs. Now let's try and answer the next question about is multi-drug resistance a problem? And I've just taken one representative data. This was a study of NICUs, and there were about 1,005 isolates studied. And if you look at the resistance, gram-positive organisms, 79% of enterococci was resistant to methicillin, and VRE was 27%. And if you look at the gram-negative organisms, cephalosporin resistance was almost 50%, carbapenem resistance around 30%, and multi-drug resistance around 30 to 50%. Of course, this is an extremely high MDR for Acinetobacter. So the point I'm trying to make is in our NICUs, multi-drug resistance is a problem. So the next question that I wanted to answer was, do interventions help in reducing HAIs? So this is a quality initiative study which was published in Indian Pediatrics, where the CLABSI rate before the intervention was 31 and after reduced to 3.5. Similarly, the bloodstream infection and the mortality have also reduced after the quality initiative which was practiced. Quality initiative is an excellent method of improving infection control practices and reducing HAIs. But the biggest problem is sustainability, and we need to address this issue whenever we're doing quality initiatives. So to answer the question, is it necessary to implement strict infection control measures in our ICUs? The answer is yes, because we do have HAIs, we do have multi-drug resistant organisms, and we do know that interventions help. So to prevent HAI, we need to implement strict infection prevention and control measures in our healthcare settings. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So not only does infection control and prevention practices prevents infection, it reduces mortality, decreases use of antibiotics, prevents emergence of multi-drug resistance, decreases length of hospital stay and cost to the patient, and most importantly, creates a safe environment both for the patient and for the healthcare worker. So we have this susceptible neonate, it could be an adult also, and then interventions are needed because these are critical patients and this baby can get infection. So if we are strict about this, we can prevent this from happening. So my appeal to all healthcare personnel is that we must ensure that infection prevention and control measures are implemented, and more importantly, we must ensure that it is practiced by all personnel at all times in all situations. The goal should be zero tolerance to HAIs. Thank you very much for a patient hearing. Thank you so much.